Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Carter Srirac. I'm the productive dude here on YouTube, and in today's video we are going to be going over 5 ways to use the Notion API to your advantage. This has brought so much power to Notion, and I'm so excited to get into this video because I think you guys are going to love the 5 ways that I've been using this API, and I think you'll be able to implement them quite well in your systems. These are great for anyone, students, business owners, just personal Notion users. Everyone's going to kind of love these API integrations that I've come up with today. What we're actually going to be looking at is how to connect these apps with Notion via another application called Zapier. And I just made a full video on how to actually use the Notion API and kind of just the basics of it. So I'm going to leave that up in the upper right hand corner of this video as a card. Please go ahead and take a look at that video if you're a beginner with the API and you don't know much about it, because this video might not make 100% sense to you. I'm not going to take a ton of time to explain how it works in this video because that is covered in the previous video. So definitely check that one out if you don't know how to use Notion with Zapier. But without further ado, let's jump right into the video. All right, so integration number 1 that I'm super excited about is the integration with Gmail. So what we're actually able to do now is turn emails into pages in Notion. So the way that I've been using this is by creating tasks in Notion by reminding myself through an email to do something. So let me show you exactly how this one works. So let me give you an example of how this works, right? Have you ever been in a situation where you're sitting there and you come up with a great idea and you don't want to lose that idea? You've kind of had that eureka moment, that aha moment, and you're thinking, I need to get this idea down, right? That is where I would normally just go to my email, or I'd send myself a text and I'd let myself know, don't forget this idea. I'd maybe write a few notes to remember it. Now what you can actually do is we can, draft up an email to ourselves here, and then I can go to my subject line and I can write in whatever I want the page to be named on Notion. So let's say I want to name it, I like to use this for tasks. So let's say I name this create a new YouTube video about APIs with Notion. Then maybe in the body, I would bullet out a few reminders for some things that I wanted to include in the video. So I want to make it easy. I want to make sure the thumbnail is on point. I want to show lots of examples. Okay. So that is my reminder to myself that I've just written in the form of an email directly to myself. So now as soon as I hit send, what happens is this email comes directly back into my inbox. But what's also happening in the background is Zapier is constantly on the lookout for this integration to happen. They're constantly looking for the conditions in my email to match what I set up in the background. So you won't see it happen right away because Zapier isn't like this instant thing. It has to constantly check your email, and then whenever it gets an update, it will pop up. But let's just wait for a second here, and eventually you'll see that email will populate in our tasks from email database. All right, so it actually just populated. I'm going to delete this top one here, but basically what happened is, we had a page, and that page was named after the subject line over here in the email. And then on the inside, we had some bullet points. They got listed out as the contents of the email. So it took the body of this email and it threw it into the notes section or the content section of the page. So how did we set this up? Well, I'm going to show you exactly how we set this up, and I'm also going to have a shared link in the description to the integration itself so that you can actually just click on that link and it will bring you to Zapier with the integration already set up for you. So definitely click that link if you guys want to, take the easy route, but if you want to learn a little bit, stick around. I'm going to show you how to set this integration up. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to head over to zapier.com, make an account, and then you're going to want to get to the point where you can select dashboard. And then once you're on your dashboard, you can create your own workflow, and you want to connect an app with another app. If you haven't set up Notion with the API yet, definitely check out my other video where I go over exactly how to do that. But right now, I want to show you guys how to use Notion once it's already connected. But I want to connect this app, right? So I'm going to connect Gmail, and I'm going to connect it with Notion. Okay, and the way that Zapier works is it kind of works in triggers and actions. So we have to select a trigger on Gmail that we want, then we have to select something that we want Notion to do on the other end. So I'm just going to select a trigger, and I'm going to select new email, and then I'm also going to go over here and I'm going to hit create database item. Okay, so now when we get a new email, we're going to create a database item. All right, so let's jump right in. I'm going to hit try it. Now let's configure this. I'm just going to select the Gmail account that I've connected. And if you haven't connected a Gmail account yet, you'll have to hit connect an account here. I'm going to click on one of these integrations here, and then I'm going to hit continue. And at this point, I want to click on inbox and all labels, and I want to switch it to sent. If I want to only get emails that I send to myself, that's what I'm kind of showing you guys how to set up right now. But you can kind of work backwards. If you wanted to, let's say, only put emails that you receive from certain clients in there or certain people, you can, basically just make it inbox. And that way you'll get all the messages that come into your inbox. But I'm just going to put all the messages that I send. Then I'm going to hit continue. Next, I'm going to add an additional step in here, and this is called a filter. So the reason that I'm adding this filter is so that I don't get every email that I send out going over to Notion. I just want one type of email going to Notion. So the only types of emails I want are the emails that I send to myself. So not only do I want just sent emails, I also want emails that are sent to myself and myself only. So I'm going to hit the plus button right here, and I'm going to type in filter. Okay, and you're going to click filter by Zapier. You want it to only continue if, and then you want to go to choose field, and you want to show all options, and then you want to go to something that's going to be unique to all of the emails that you send to yourself. So for me, and for most of you guys, that's going to be the from email. So once you select from email, you just have to choose a condition, and then you have to choose text contains, and then you're just going to enter the name that you have set up with your from email. So for me, from email, you'll see it just says Carter Sirach. Okay, so I'm just going to do Carter Sirach, and it might not say that for you because it might not be pulling the data from your from email. To verify what kind of text you want to type in here, all you have to do is go over to your Gmail account and then just click on the drop down of the message that you sent to yourself, and you can see that the to has this exact text in it. So that's how I know that I can come in here and hit the from name, or I should put the to name. I guess it's the from name and the to name. The from name, Carter Sirach, matches this. So now it's only going to send messages that are in my sent folder and that are to myself. So I'm going to hit continue. And it says your zap would have continued, so that's great. That means that this filter should work. We will have to make sure that you type this correctly, because if you don't, it could fail. But then you're going to go on to the next step, which is Notion. You're going to want to make sure that your account is all set up and that you've already watched the prior video that goes in depth on like how to set up the Notion API in general before this step will work, or you have to set it up yourself. It's pretty self-explanatory if you just read the docs on Notion. But I've already pre-created a few of these integrations, so I'm just going to select this one and I'm going to hit continue. From there, it's going to load. And then I have to choose a database that I want to connect to. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to go to my tasks from email database that I've already pre-connected. Then I'm going to go to task. And what do I want to make the task? Well, the task is essentially just this column. It's pulling this column because I told it, hey, I want to manipulate the database tasks from emails. So it's going to pull the task column, the status column, and the notes column. And that's what it's done. We've got task, notes, status. Then we've got content, which is the content on the actual page once you click into the page. So what I'm going to do here is for task, I'm going to go into my new email in Gmail, and I'm going to make the subject line the task. So now whenever I enter a new subject line and I'm wanting to remind myself of something, I can literally just go and type out the exact task that I want with the verb and everything. I always like to use a verb when I'm creating a task. So create is the verb here. that is going to inspire action, right? So I have create a new YouTube video about APIs with Notion as a subject line. So I just want to make sure that the subject line is mapped to the task column. And then in the notes, I can put something along the lines of, I can put a string of text. I can write, this came directly from email, or I can actually pull in something from the email that I want to keep, like the body. But what I want to do for now is I'm just going to put the date of the email and the time, and then I'm going to put, for status, I'm going to put incoming from email, and then I'm going to go to the content and do the body plain, okay? And then next, I'm going to hit continue. And now this should be all set up. I'm gonna hit test and continue, and then I'm going to turn on the zap if I want it to fire regularly, but I already have one created, so I'm not gonna turn mine on. You would wanna turn yours on if you want it to fire. But you'll notice that that came through right here. And just to verify it, the note is here, and it's kind of listed out the time and day. So that's how you know that, it's not pre-populated. I didn't enter that in there. And if I open it up, check that out. It's got that text in there. And this is just pulled from a test email. But if I wanted to, I could come back again and write an email to myself. And just for the subject line, I could put create new task in Notion, testing this out. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to hit send. So now that should end up in my tasks from email database as well in a little bit here. It usually does take some time for Zapier to pull that task, but once it does that automatically for you, which is really nice. All right, there it is. It just came through. So now I'm going to open it up, and as you can see, testing this out. So obviously that worked out. The second way that you can use Notion's API is by creating forms that you can then send out to other people and get feedback directly into your Notion database. So one of the great form softwares out there that makes this very easy is Google Forms. Google Forms is pretty much free for everyone to use, and it's a lot easier than some of these other form solutions that you're gonna have to pay for. So what you can actually do is map all of your Google Form fields over to a Notion database, and I'm gonna show you how right now. So right now we're looking at a fresh Google form. I'm just going to give it a title, and the title is going to be survey for applicants. This is a survey of everyone's favorite color, and we'll need to add some questions in here. So the first question that I'm going to enter is for people to answer is going to be a short answer, and it's going to be name. Okay, so enter your name there. We're going to make it required. And then I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to change it to multi-choice. And I'm going to write, what's your favorite color? Then we're just going to enter some generic colors. We might not have every color in here that people would like, but just for example's sake, I'm just going to do it as multi-choice because I want to show you guys how the multi-choice feature integrates with Notion. But that doesn't mean that we are going to necessarily have every color in here. So I'm just going to put in a few examples. And let's say these are all the existing colors in the color spectrum. They're not. I know there's more, but I'm just going to put a couple in here. So now that we've got those, they're all required. Name is required. We have all the information that we need to take in about people's favorite colors and their name, but I also want to add one for birthday. So I'm going to duplicate that once again, and I'm going to do short answer. I'm going to do, what is your birthday? I'm actually going to switch this to date. I'm going to customize the theme here. Let's make it gray. We could go blue-gray. Change the background color. So now that we've got this form created, people can simply fill it out. They can write their name. They can choose their favorite color, and then they can choose their birthday here, right? So that's very cool. But once they submit it, what's going to happen? Well, it's just basically going to save in a Google Sheet right now. That's all it'll really do. So we have to set this up with Notion first so that it can actually get transferred over to Notion. So I'm going to click into Notion here. And once I'm in Notion, I'm just going to create a very basic page called birthdays and colors. Okay, and we're just going to do a little present. And then from here, I want to turn this into a table so that I can actually map all of these questions to a column. So let's check this out. We've got name, what's your favorite color, what's your birthday. So for name, we need to keep this column here. That's fine. This is the mandatory column. It's going to be the name of the page. And then what's your favorite color? Well, we have to create a select. And then I'm just going to name this colors. And we're going to put some color options in here. So let's do orange. And now we're going to do a birthday column. Now, if I want to connect this with Zapier, I need to make sure that I share this integration with Zapier. So I'm going to hit share, and I'm going to select invite, and then I'm going to invite my Google Tasks to Notion integration. And it's not Google Tasks to Notion, that's just what it says because that's what it was before. I was using Google Tasks to Notion. But this is basically the whole integration. I'm just inviting it so that now it can edit this page. And then I'm going to go back over to Zapier and we're going to connect these apps. So let's just connect Google Forms with Notion. And then I'm going to select new response in spreadsheet. And I'm going to do create database item. Then we're going to hit try it. I'm going to change the name to form to Notion. Let's just do a little emoji. Now let's choose our account. You might have to configure this if you haven't already. So I'm going to finish filling this out just so I get some data. I'm going to enter one more in here. Once you have a few submissions, you're also going to want to make sure you go over to the responses section in Google Forms and just make sure that you hit view responses in sheet. And this will just get the sheet to load up and you can see the name of the sheet here. If it's not a recognizable name, then just give it a new name because you're going to want to be able to see it in Zapier. So once you have that sheet populated, you're going to want to go back over to Zapier and you're going to want to click on spreadsheet and you're going to want to click on the one that you desire. So let's just click on this one. Then we're going to click on worksheet and just make sure it's the only one there. And then I'm going to hit continue. And now we're going to map this over to Notion. So I'm going to click on Notion. I'm going to find the Notion account that I want to use. Continue. Going to go to database. And then we're just going to click birthdays and colors because that's the one that we have set up. And now we're going to map everything. So the forms, we can map the name, we can map the colors. So make sure that you don't make the mistake of clicking on one of these colors. You're going to want to actually go to custom. You're going to want to go over to what's your favorite color and map that. And then birthday here, we're going to map to what is your birthday. And then we're going to refresh fields, hit continue. And then now we'll see that it's pulled some of that data that we've already put in there. And it's going to be pulling future data if we turn the Zap on. So let's just hit test and continue. Let's see what it did over in Zapier. So boom, we got this entry here for John. And now when we add future entries to that Google form, we're going to see those appear in here as well. There's tons of different use cases with this. I'm sure that your mind is already working on some ideas that you might have for how we can actually implement this, but the point is it's basically limitless. You know, you could create a limitless number of columns and you could create forms for a number of different applications. The next example of how to use the API that I'm going to show you today is calendar syncing. So we're going to be taking whatever's in our Google Calendar or our Outlook calendar, and we're going to be moving it over to a Notion calendar. So let's jump right into it. The first thing that you're going to need for this setup is you're going to need a calendar page. So basically what you want to do is make a full width page and we're going to turn it into a calendar database. And I'm just going to name this calendar syncing. And now you're going to see that there are a ton of different dates in here that are pretty much empty right now, but we're actually going to sync these up with our Google Calendar. So I'm over here in my Google Calendar and I'm just going to create a new calendar. I'm going to call it Notion calendar. And this is just going to be pretty much everything that goes into here is going to sync with Notion. So sync with Notion. And then I'm going to hit create calendar. Okay, great. Now we have a Notion calendar and it's going to show up as red. So let's just make sure that my Notion calendar is ticked on. It sure is. And right now, if I put an event in for like the 23rd, let's say, and I call it test event, and maybe I go in here and add a bit of a description. This is an event that is used for testing. And you're going to see that that shows up on the 23rd here, but it's not going to show up over here in Notion yet on the 23rd. But what we actually have to do is sync that up with Zapier. So let's get on to the next integration. We're going to go into my Zaps, and I'm going to hit make a new Zap. Now let's start working on this Zap. What is it going to do? Well, it's going to sync Google Calendar with Notion. All right, great. So now we're going to select Google Calendar, and I'm going to choose an event, a trigger event. So these can be instant, which is pretty cool. New or updated event is going to be probably the one that we will use for this, because the reason that we would do this is we want to have continuity between our calendars on Notion and on Google. We want it to switch interchangeably with each other. So I'm going to click new or updated event. Okay, we're going to hit continue, and I'm going to go to the calendar that I want to use. Hit continue again, and under calendar, I'm just going to select my Notion calendar. Now I'm going to hit refresh fields and continue, and then let's hit test trigger, and we will see that it's going to pull in some test data from that event that we made for the 24th. I'm going to hit continue, and now for the action, I'm going to type in Notion. Okay, and we have to make sure that this calendar syncing page is shared with our integration, so I'm going to hit share. I'm going to make sure it's shared with the integration. I'm going to invite the integration for full access. And then I'm just going to choose an event, create database item, continue. We're going to select our account. I'm going to hit continue. And then database here, we're going to do calendar syncing. And we're going to line everything up just as it is over here in the calendar. So I'm just going to pull in a few different things. One, I'm going to pull in the summary, which says test event. That's basically just the title here, test event. And then I'm going to pull in the date itself. So event begins. Let's actually use the non-pretty version, because I think that will sync up better with Notion's date feature. And then for our content, we're just going to click in there, and I'm going to add the description for content. And then I'm going to hit continue, and we're going to hit test and continue. Now that that test has gone off, I'm going to go check out the calendar. You'll notice that our test event has indeed transferred over to Notion. Pretty cool, right? Because now what we can actually do is we can go into this test event, and we have a full page for the event. So we can actually plan out the event. We can write some notes here. Let's say we wanted to put notes down during the event. We already have a note pre-populated, and it's a full-on Notion page that can, you can add notes. So let's just put like some bullet points. We can also go ahead and add, a full-on to-do list if we wanted to, or we could create, an inline table. We could do pretty much anything with this event now, and we get to see it right here in the calendar view. The other great thing about this is if you wanted to sync up all your events and then you wanted to interpret the data in a different way, you can add a whole nother view in Notion. So let's just say we wanted to add, a Kanban view, hit create, and we could create tag columns to separate out all of these events. So the possibilities are really endless with this calendar integration, because you can just see the data in so many different ways, and it's so nice to actually be able to use this data in Notion. The next way that I'm really excited about using this integration is as a handoff between task management software. So when we look at something like Trello, it's a great software and you might use it for certain things, but you don't want to always have to rely on it. You want to be able to fall back on something like Notion if you want to interpret the data in a bit of a different way, or you want it in your Notion workspace, because what we really aim to do is move everything to our Notion hub, if you will. That's the way I look at Notion, is it's really just a hub Now, especially with the API feature for everything in my life, it's a one-stop shop for everything that I want to see. So that's why it's so great as a handoff now that we've got the API working on our side. So let's just look at something like Trello. I've created this project management board and I have some tasks. So I'm just going to put go get the groceries, take out the trash, study neuroscience, the average things that you do in a day, order a pizza. And since I'm a multitasker, I'm just going to kind of move all these things to working, and some of them are complete. Maybe the pizza's already ordered, but I still got to go get the groceries. So this is basically how Trello works. It's pretty straightforward. This is a Kanban board. And what we can actually do is move all this over to Notion through Zapier. So I'm going to go back over to Zapier and I'm going to do a Trello to Notion integration. So let's just say Trello. We're going to choose an event, new card, continue. I'm going to choose the account that I want to use. I'm going to find the board that I want to use. I'm going to use this project management board. Then I'm going to go to list. And we see all these lists here, so I'm just going to leave that blank because I want it to pull from any of the lists. Then filter, we're going to leave open. Now I'm going to hit continue, and we're going to test the trigger just to make sure that it pulls some data through. So I'm going to hit continue. And now we're going to connect with Notion. But before we can connect to Notion, we need to create an instance of this on Notion. So I'm going to create a full width board. And we're going to hide the no status column. I'm going to create a column for, what were they over here? Incomplete, working, and completed. That's fine. Let's just put complete so that it matches. I'm just going to put Trello to Notion. Now I'm going to choose the event over here in Zapier. And we're going to create a database item, hit continue, hit your Notion account here. We're going to go with Notion number 3. You're probably only going to have one in there. Continue. And before this works, we have to go ahead and hit share. We have to share this with our integration. Now I can find my database. So I want to actually just refresh fields. Now that it's shared, it should show up here. So I'm going to hit Trello to Notion. And now we have all of the columns. So we have status, which is this here. And then we have name of the page, which is going to map to our Trello. So let's actually just get right into it. So we're going to map name. We're going to assign, well, we don't have to assign it to anyone, but this is if we wanted to assign it to a particular Notion user. Next, I'm going to go to status here, and I'm just going to map it to whatever status we want the task to go to. So I'm going to hit incomplete. And then for content here, if you wanted to, you could go into your Trello content and you could actually go into your description or wherever you want to pull content from, and you could pull the content from there. I'm not going to pull any of that. I'm just going to hit continue. Then I'm going to hit test and continue. Now, if I go back, you'll see that go get the groceries is here and incomplete. It can be moved and manipulated, and if we wanted to, we could map more data into the content area, just like we did on some of those other integrations. The fifth and final way for this video that you can actually use Notion with the API is by creating a Zoom call recording database. I think this is a really good idea because you can pull all of your Zoom call recordings into one place so that your team and others can view them, and you can share these pages individually with others. And you can actually get really in depth with this because you can add a description in that page and kind of leave your analysis of the call. And it's much better than just having all of these Zoom recordings in your Zoom account where only you can view them and they're hard to share and it's just a bit of a cumbersome UI. So I believe that this is a much better way to store your Zoom call recordings once they're completed. So basically what this is going to do is going to pull in the name of the Zoom call into here, and then it's going to put the URL of the recording here and then the call date there. So in order to get this started, you just have to go over to Zoom, of course, and you have to make sure that your integration is set up there. But once your integration is set up with Zoom and Zapier, you can go look at your recording section, and you'll notice that if you have cloud recording set up on Zoom, all of your recordings are going to go to this database right here. But this is as far as they go, basically. I mean, you can hit share from here, but there's not a whole lot to it other than that. You can't actually like go in and write a full page on that or talk about it in depth. It's literally just restricted to this Zoom database with just these 4 columns, right? It's not very useful. Now, what I could do is I can go over to Zapier and I can create a new Zap. So we're going to go Zoom to Notion. And then we're going to make the trigger Zoom. I'm going to choose event. So new recording is going to be our event. So whenever there's a new recording present, it's going to show up as an event and it's going to trigger. So let's hit continue. And I'm going to select my account. Continue again. And meeting type, we're just going to do meeting. Then I'm going to hit continue. Looks like it pulled it in. I'm going to hit continue. Also note that if you've never recorded a Zoom call, it's not going to pull that data in. You're going to have to get some data in there first. So even if you have to create a Zoom call, start a recording, set up the cloud recording on Zoom, and then just get a dummy event put into there so that it can pull that, that might be what you'll have to do to get it to actually pull for the first time, just to make sure it's working and you can test it and ensure that everything's going properly. I'm going to share my Zoom database on Notion with the integration. Invite, and I'm going to refresh. And I'm going to go back over here and we're going to type in Notion for the action event. We're going to go create database item, continue, and we're going to go to Notion number 3, continue. And I'm going to choose a database, Zoom call recordings. That's going to pull in all of our info here. Then we're just going to map that to topic, start time, and share URL. All right, now I'm going to hit continue, hit test and continue. And then if I go back over here, you'll notice that we have the Zoom call ready to go. And I can simply click open link up in the upper right hand corner of the URL. And it's going to pull me into the Zoom call. You know, you can start to imagine the use case of this a little bit better now that you are kind of seeing the power of this. But this is just an example of how you can pull in the Zoom recordings and get them to show up. I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for watching all the way through this video. I really appreciate everyone that has. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like. That helps us out a ton. Comment below letting me know what you are going to use the Notion API for, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. It takes subscribers, it takes likes, it takes comments for us to continue to make these videos. That's what motivates us to keep going, is that, you know, we're helping you guys out. So continue to give us that feedback and let us know that we're doing a good job, or let us know where we can improve. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys in the next video.